on air call again.
This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and Three Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and Three Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and Three Counts starts now.
Ooh, what up, everybody? It's another Thursday. This is Knockouts and Three Counts. And, I mean, hey, we're almost through another week, and cheers to you. Hope everybody's doing all right tonight. We're going to have a few things on the table. You got the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournaments that are going to be starting tomorrow night on SmackDown. You had the AEW 2-year anniversary show that happened yesterday. Dark Side of the Ring's on tonight. You got, I mean, there's so much to talk about. You had somebody pass away in the Bare Knuckle FC ring. UFC's this weekend. I mean, there's a lot of different things to talk about on Knockouts and Three Counts. So before we get to all that stuff, Dom, how the hell you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. I got some good news today. Looks like I'll be doing some American Clubs League in the esports. You know, for those of you who know anything about playing FIFA, it's not a huge deal, but yeah, I'm a little excited. I'm gonna get to play some competitive FIFA this year. I took a year off, so I wasn't sure I was gonna plus I'm playing a different position, but it feels nice. How about yourself?
Hey, man. I can't do that shit. I was going to say, I mean, I was expecting you to say something about Dom of DomFlo Radio, man. You're back on the radio.
Yeah, that
and shit,
too.
you know,
Right.
I mean, hot damn, I served it up on a platter for you.
You did, but this is just the recent news today. You know, it's the recency bias. That's I don't know. They talk about it in
He's like, I'll promote it on my own shit. He said, fuck your platform. I'll promote it on my own shit.
Well, if you really want to listen to Dom of DomFlo Radio, it's an electronic dance music show. It takes place Mondays from noon to 2. You'd have to get the TuneIn app, and you'd have to look up WHFR.FM. And it is a live service, so you can't, you have to catch it noon to 2 Eastern Standard Time, 11 a.m. Central.
I was gonna say, you gotta know your times, dog. You gotta know your times. You gotta plug your shit.
But I just had the Disney in my head, you know, like 8 p.m., 7 p.m. Central, and so I was like 11 a.m. Central.
That's funny.
Corey, how the hell are you doing on a Thursday, man?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. Had a nice, actual, easy work week in the books. Just ready to get another day out of the way and call this one. Ready to get into this weekend, man. Got a busy weekend ahead. Just excited for it.
You gonna share with the class or no?
My girls.
You have a right to privacy.
Well, because it just honestly wasn't necessarily anything of super interest. My two little girls both got invited to 2 separate birthday parties, so we're gonna be.
So you get to be the birthday runner.
Yeah, so we're toting them around to birthday parties, getting everything ready, and probably gonna do some Halloween shopping. That's what.
Is it annoying? You got to go find 2 different gifts, or is that just whatever?
You know, these are friends from school, so they at least get to be cheap gifts. You know, but we don't have to go all out for random strangers from school.
You only know them from school, so they only get a $5 gift.
Yeah. They get something, but we ain't.
Well, speaking of something that you're gonna get, bro, let's talk about this Queen's Crown and King of the Ring tournament. Now, I was just looking up the dates online to get ready for the show, and it says that the King of the Ring and the Queen's Crown tournaments are going to conclude at Crown Jewel. Go figure. The Prince in Saudi Arabia wants there to be the big finale in Crown Jewel. I mean, hey, we already know that we're going to get Roman versus Brock there, so I can't blame you. But, Dom, you being more of the wrestling guy, what are your thoughts on there being the inaugural Queen's Crown tournament? Yeah, I know what I meant.
I mean, is it going to be like the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal? Like,
no, it's going to be like the King of the Ring tournament.
No. What I get that. I get it's like the King of the Ring. What I mean is, what is the title going to do for the wrestler? At the end of the day, what does the Andre Memorial Battle Royal do? What has it done for wrestlers in the past? Just because you win it doesn't mean it takes you anywhere.
But the King of the Ring has done a lot. I mean, King of the Ring is where, Austin 316 was born.
Right, but how many fail? Where since King Booker, and I think Baron Corbin has been the best.
Baron Corbin did a good job, and Sheamus did a good job as well. If you guys are watching, feel free to comment in the comments your favorite King of the Ring.
It hasn't propelled too many stars in recent years, and Sheamus was already a made man. Like, let's not act like Sheamus's bro kick isn't the most protected finisher in all of WWE over the past better part of 2 decades. So I can't say that King of the Ring propelled him. Maybe Baron Corbin a bit, but
okay, in recent years, maybe, but I'm just saying in a time where there's never been one for the females yet, I mean, we got to see what they're going to do with it before we can cast it out.
But I asked the question. I'm like, what is
I don't think
mean? That's what I'm like. Is it going to be that, or is it going?
I'd like to hope it would be. I'd like to hope it would be, but I mean, at the same time, it's fair that you ask that because the women's divisions right now have seemed a little flat. Now, that being said, though,
and they've had less of them on television. I think I don't know if there's a ratings correlation. I think they noticed some drop in the ratings, and that has had some influence on less women on television. From what
Donald Holland in the comments, he says he likes Bret Hart as King of the Ring.
So arguments here.
It seems like all the examples though that were given were all of older generation stars.
Sure. And that was what my next point was. So like, yeah, it in the past few years, it hasn't necessarily been used in the best light, but at least more so with the Queen's Crown tournament as opposed to the King of the Ring tournament. I'm interested to see what they do with it simply for the fact that, remember, the draft picks don't take effect for 2 weeks. They take effect the Friday after Crown Jewel. So if you win the Queen's Crown tournament on SmackDown or on Crown Jewel, and then you got to go into SmackDown like that, you know what I mean? That could be something that could put a good jolt into their women's division, because if there's only one thing that the draft did show, it's clear that these networks are getting real particular and saying, I want a quality product. And if that's not the case, I mean, why else would you have Charlotte Flair get put over to SmackDown? Like I said, I mean, it's come out, that Fox had wanted her over there, like I said. So with them putting her over there, Becky Lynch going to Raw, you know what I mean? Like, it would be a perfect way for that to happen. We got a few people in the comments talking about King of the Ring. Brock Agnew, King of the Ring is the most unnecessary, underappreciated pay-per-view. It used to be a big deal, but now it really doesn't matter. My favorite King of the Ring was Bret Hart and Austin. I can't argue that either, man. I mean, Austin's my all-time favorite King of the Ring for, obvious reasons, but Bret Hart is, Bret Hart was great as King too. Yeah, that's a good pick. Can't even be mad at you for that one. I don't know, man. I just would like to hope that they, again, and this is WWE we're talking about. So, again, I could be wishing on a UFO, but I'm hoping that this Queen's Crown tournament would be something where they can use it to kind of re-energize the women's division, especially with them shaking everything up. Because I got to imagine with the solid viewership that AEW keeps getting, you can't tell me that Vince, and again, I'm not saying that he's comparing themselves to them, because I really do believe that Vince doesn't give a shit about anything else outside of the WWE. But even that being said, they're watching all that. So, let's hope that with this shakeup that it could do that. Dom, as we go into this tournament, and all you guys who are watching, anybody who wants to let us know in the comments, do you guys got any early front runners for the Queen's Crown tournament? And for the King of the Ring? Do you got a pick for?
Do we know the entrance?
We don't yet, and that's the other thing.
Well, then,
we don't, but we know who the rosters are.
I got a couple comments. Like as we talk
Okay, go ahead.
You had said something, and I wanted to compare WWE to Michigan football. You heard about what WWE is saying in regards to NXT. They don't want anyone over the age of 30, right? Did you hear that or no?
No, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, so I think that they're trying to get more big men as well. So they're trying to move away from the AEW style or from the small man stuff. It's almost like Michigan football putting limiters on themselves. Like they say, we don't want anyone over the age of 30. Well, how are Johnny Gargano and such in NXT? That didn't help anybody. Like all of these older vets that came through, these younger guys could learn things from them. And you want it's like ESPN bringing in these robots from Syracuse. Everybody sounds the same. Is that really what you want? But so getting back to the Michigan doesn't want to accept transfers from anyone who isn't a grad transfer because their credits they won't allow their credits to transfer over, even though their degree is worthless. But that's the athletic degree is worthless, not the other ones. But that's a discussion for a different podcast. Then you got the fact that with this NIL, you got a lot of boosters trying to pay students and get them on these NIL deals, try and get recruits to come over, maybe get some salary for the players. And the board is like, no, you can't do that. How are you supposed to compete with everybody else when you're putting handcuffs behind your back? WWE is seeing this movement in AEW, and they're like, well, first, we don't want to be the blood and guts company. So they're putting all of these shackles on themselves to where they're not. I can't see them being the hot product anytime soon. I don't want to say they can't compete with AEW because they're on Fox and Raw is it's the established brand, but I don't think they're going to be that hot product because they're putting all of these shackles on themselves. Just like Michigan is, you want to say whatever you want to say, being ranked 8 right now, it's kind of fool's gold. It's a mirage. Their passing game, if you want to, just quick stat, anything over 2nd and 7 or 3rd and 5 in those passing downs, they have 22% efficiency. That is 120th in the nation. There are like 125 teams. And there are only 3 teams that run the ball more than Michigan, and they're all service academies. So they don't have the other option to pass the ball. So they're putting all these limitations on themselves because Wisconsin has a cap. There's only so good Wisconsin can be. They're playing Wisconsin ball. That's why Wisconsin never wins the Big Ten. They don't have quarterbacks that stretch the field and whatnot. And so there's a ceiling on what you can accomplish with that. And I think WWE is putting their own ceiling, an unnecessary ceiling on themselves.
Right. So
long-winded. Sorry, I may finish my point.
Long-winded as fuck. But I mean, I'm just saying. But I'm going to play devil's advocate. And Lord knows I've been known to give WWE their shit where they deserve it. But to play devil's advocate, you say that they put shackles on themselves and you don't see them being the A product. Here's the thing, though.
The hot product. There's a
hot product, A product. Look, when you get to SmackDown, dude, again, when we talk about Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, I mean, I would argue that might be the best story in pro wrestling right now, bar none. In any of the companies.
But it's not enough.
And they're still drawing 2.3 million every week.
I can say from one storyline does not a show make.
No, but I'm not saying that, though. SmackDown as a whole has been good for a while. Now, we all know Raw has been shit, but that's why I'm saying I would like to hope that they're going to somehow try to use King of the Ring and this Queen's Crown tournament to revamp the rosters since the draft picks take effect the night after Crown Jewel. Now, I still stick by
oceanfront property in Nebraska I want to sell you.
Now, I still stick by what I said in that I think them doing it this way with there being this show in Saudi, I think it shit all over the Extreme Rules pay-per-view that they had last weekend because we knew that fucking it was going to be Roman versus Brock at Crown Jewel. So how the hell could Roman lose the belt? And I mean, you had a character in The Fiend who Yes, he lost once in NXT, but hadn't been beaten on the main roster, and then you bring him in and he loses like that. So I don't know. But I asked, who did people think were going to win these tournaments? We got a few people in the comments. We got the homie J-Bone chiming in. He said his early pick was Shayna Baszler, wishful thinking, but she's a beast.
I like that.
I love that pick. I think she would be a perfect person for her to win it. She's on a new brand. She's on SmackDown. She's been and right before she left Raw, she snapped Nia Jax's arm, snapped who else did she get? Doudrop and somebody else. She snapped 3 people's arms in consecutive weeks leading up to this and going into SmackDown. I think Shayna Baszler would be a great pick. And you know what, J-Bone? Hot damn it. I'm jumping on the ship with you. I think Shayna Baszler is going to get the dub in this one because here's the thing with it, right? As of right now, anyway,
oh no,
Sasha Banks is in the triple threat match with Becky and Bianca, and that also takes both of them out. So it can't be the 4 horsewomen because Charlotte also, I believe, already has a match too. So that takes them out of it. You have Bayley, but I don't think she's going to be back by then. So I mean, I would like to see it. Now,
I have a worst thought when you're done.
Go ahead.
What if, like, as you said Shayna Baszler and you were talking about how that's a great pick, all of a sudden I got this vision of Eva Marie cutting promos as the queen going, and it just, wouldn't that be total WWE though? I hate to say but I could totally see them doing it. I rebuke that in everything that is good on this world. On all that is good. Please no Eva Marie is the queen. But I can see them.
Oh my God. Well, she can't. Remember, like she's the 3rd one. Eva Marie got her arm snapped by Shayna already.
Okay.
Now, I just want to say, I, for one, hope to God that with Doudrop and her getting her arm snapped, when Doudrop comes back, that she can just be Piper fucking Niven like she was in NXT UK, and we can get this dumbass shit over with. But I don't know. Anyway, that's my pick for it. I'd like to see it be Shayna Baszler, but again, if it's not Shayna, I would say a dark horse pick would be Liv Morgan. The way that they keep poking and prodding like they're going to do something with her. I mean, if you were going to, now would be a good time to do that. Brock coming in the comments. I like Shayna too, but they're overselling her as a legit badass. I need to see. Brock, do you know? Hold on. I got to cover this one. So you need to know more about in-ring dominance. You got to realize, Brock, she fought in the UFC too. Shayna was in MMA long before Ronda Rousey as well. I don't know if WWE fans know as much about her MMA background, but in the early episodes of this show, we had Tara LaRosa on, who fought Shayna Baszler 3 times, and not only fought her, but they fought for the inaugural Bodog Championship. I mean, like I say, Shayna Baszler is about as credible as they come, and that's why even when Ronda Rousey was coach on The Ultimate Fighter, why Shayna was her first pick on The Ultimate Fighter. So I don't know, man. She's got legitimacy. Maybe it's outside of WWE. I could see where WWE fans would want to see maybe a little bit more, but I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that in NXT, she was killing shit. She was the longest reigning NXT champion, all that stuff. But then when she came up here to the main roster, they had her on with the tag team championship for the longest time with Nia Jax. I think in the coming weeks, you're going to see them, really start to reassert Shayna Baszler as the badass that we all know Shayna to be. My personal thoughts. Dom, what about you? Corey, you got any thoughts on Shayna Baszler?
I mean, like, I feel as though you summed it up pretty damn well. I mean, she represented herself very, very well in both the UFC and just MMA in general. Like, she did a very good job of representing herself in MMA. So, to question her credibility, I could understand, like you say, somebody who may not be familiar with her career going into WWE or wrestling in general. why they would question or want to see more out of her. But if you knew enough about her going into her transition, I guess you could say, you could understand why she had gotten herself to that point so quickly.
So I think she got a really nice resting bitch face. I could see her like she got that look like she's just pissed off at the camera, like just pissed off at everything. And that's the icing on the cake of all of the credibility that she has. She's always just pissed off and got this angry energy. So yeah, you could probably sell her as a monster. But I was thinking, are we taking any? I thought about it a little bit while you were talking. Are we taking predictions on the King of the Ring now? Or
yeah, let's do it. Who do you got? Who do you see winning King of the Ring?
Hear me out. Vince, I think, is loving Matt Riddle, and I think he would like having ideas of, man, I was so high up on my throne, like I could see those, like I was up so high all the way at the top of my castle. I could see those jokes, and Vince going, oh, that's some good shit. Like I could see that, and it's a nice push.
So you're picking Matt Riddle. You think he's going to be the real super king of bros? I mean, if you look at his Twitter handle, he says he's already the super king of bros. So not only would he be the super king of bros, then he'd be the super king of the ring, bro. I mean, dude, that would be pretty dope. We're talking about King of the Ring. If you guys got any picks on King of the Ring or the Queen's Crown, please feel free to drop them in the comments. We're going to get down to some MMA news and MMA picks and all that good stuff here in a second. But I guess that means I got to make a pick for King of the Ring. And as far as King of the Ring goes, I really don't feel like there's like a front runner for this, especially considering we really don't know who's in the tournament. Again,
we're going to have to comment that in a minute.
Again, I believe that. Well, right, but again, I believe that like adds like a layer of intrigue to it. Like, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, like it's kind of hard to be like, well, yeah, King of the Ring when you don't even know who's going to be in it. So, I don't know, based purely off speculation and just going on it cold. I think Matt Riddle's a really good pick. Something tells me that the person that wins this, I feel like, is going to be off Raw. And I really think that it would be cool if they can somehow use this to play into Survivor Series somehow. But I don't know, man. I think Matt Riddle would be a hell of a pick, but I just don't know that they'll put it on him with him still being tag champs with Randy Orton.
That's fair.
But I mean, what about Damian Priest, bro?
That's not a bad pick, but isn't he still...
he's still United States champion,
right.
But it's a singles championship, though. If I'm not mistaken, Sheamus was U.S. champ when he was King of the Ring. I mean...
what's to say that Randy doesn't just get annoyed with Matt Riddle coming out in the whole King outfit, and maybe he's got, like... Because, Matt Riddle will be out here, like... shaking his sphere and what, like he's got his little cane sphere and he'd be wearing like he would enjoy that and be like, yeah, super King of the Ring, bro. And Randy Orton can just RKO him out of nowhere and he'd be like, and everybody like, what was that about? And Randy could say, you were starting to annoy me. I liked she was entertaining, but you don't know when to stop. And I'd be like, okay, I believe that coming from Randy.
Well, sure. I mean, it's inevitable that at some point Randy Orton's totally going to fuck Riddle up. I mean, that's inevitable. It's Randy Orton we're talking about. It's just a matter of time until Randy Orton decides, okay, fuck you, I want to go towards the world title again, and Riddle's going to get RKO'd. I mean, that's just what's going to happen. But I don't know, man. I'm not mad at it. It's a good pick. I'm not mad at it. It's a good pick. I don't know, but something tells me that they're gonna like kind of keep pushing Damian Priest a little bit. I feel like they've been putting a little bit of momentum behind him. So I don't know. For me, I'm gonna go Damian Priest for King of the Ring, and as far as Queen of the Ring, I'm going with Shayna Baszler. But if it's not Shayna Baszler, I think that Liv Morgan might be a dark horse. But again, it's hard to speculate when we don't know who the fuck is in the tournament. But again,
circling back to that, this Extreme Rules and many pay-per-views, a lot of times they don't announce a lot of the matches beforehand. This is not just a tournament thing. This is a reoccurring WWE thing now. And I don't think this is good business. How can you say, here, come buy my product, and we don't know what it is? How can you expect people to be buying fairly expensive price tickets, and you're not going to tell them what they're going to see?
I could understand some layer of like surprise, like one or two
surprise
matches
is always nice,
or
but
something like that.
When you got a pay-per-view that's 4 or 5 hours long, and
they had the main. They did though have
something along this lines where you have not only one tournament on the night, but you have two. You have the men's and women's essentially. How you don't even whether they release the bracket of who's going to face who and how the matchups are going to play up or whatever the case. They don't have to do that, but at least let us know the roster so that we can do what we're doing and speculate on who's going to end up winning and stuff like that. I mean, it seems like a miss on their regard.
So I completely agree with that, but I think the reason why, my thought for why I think they've gotten themselves into this problem is, I think like a lot of people thought that. It's got nothing to do with that. I think it's bad timing. See, we already know that like the Saudi Arabia shows, like they have so many a year that they got to do. I assume that those dates obviously probably got screwed up or rushed because of all the stuff with COVID, which I get that that's fair. But here's my thing, right? If you knew that you were going to do a draft and you were going to shake up the rosters and all that, why wouldn't you then have all the rosters get changed and then you can announce the brackets the night of the draft, right? So like if you do the draft the night after Crown Jewel and then all the rosters get switched up, even if it's just the same as it is right now. If all the picks were the same, if you do the draft the night after Crown Jewel instead of having it done the night 2 weeks ahead of time and then Crown Jewel they take effect the next night, I feel like you could have done like the brackets and all that. So I feel like part of this is because of all the stuff at Crown Jewel, but then again, I don't know. It's just weird. Like,
my point is,
because back in the day, if you remember, they used to have like, you'd have like the King of the Ring qualifier match, or in this case, the Queen's Crown qualifier match. Just a real different way of doing it.
My thing, I hear what you're saying, that it might be in part to that, but this is a pattern I've noticed with WWE. There was a pay-per-view a few months ago, like less than 2 weeks before the pay-per-view aired, and you only had 4 matches announced. Like 4 matches.
They used to do that back in the day, though. If they'd have done no matches, I get you, but that used to be a thing. Like if you look at the early WrestleManias, there was only like 2 or 3 matches really announced.
I think that's audacious of them to be doing in today's day and age. I think that they are not nearly a good enough product to say, hey, come watch us, but we're not going to tell you much of what's on it.
Not only come watch us like on a normal, Tuesday or Wednesday show or Thursday show, whatever the case be. No, come give us your money ahead of time for an actual pay-per-view event. That's 2 different things. If you're talking just their weekly, out of schedule, that's one thing. But to try to build anticipation for something that they're giving you nothing, it's just
that is exactly my point. I think it's
in their regard.
It's bad business.
Yeah.
Hey, if you guys got any thoughts in the comments, or anybody who's watching this, if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, comment button. We want to know what you think. Are you guys pissed that you don't know the participants in this year's King of the Ring and Queen of the Ring? Do you think it takes any of the interest away from it, or has WWE already done that themselves? I don't know. But there's other news in the world of pro wrestling, as it was announced last night that AJ Lee, or AJ Mendez, also the wife of one CM Punk, your former WWE Women's Champion and all those things, is now an executive alongside Jeannie Buss of the Los Angeles Lakers of WOW Superheroes, the Women of Wrestling. Past guest of the show, Ray Lynn, was on there. It was announced that AJ is going to be one of the executives and is going to be having some kind of return to the wrestling business. It was also announced that Tessa Blanchard is going to be back in WOW Superheroes. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, she had a big impact there, a big presence there before.
Nuclear.
Well, right, but I was just saying, as far as WOW went, she was one of the ones like helping coach a lot of their talent and was a big presence there. But you're right. Since then, she's become all but nuclear. That's why she hasn't gotten signed it anywhere, you know, whether it be Impact or NWA or AEW. I mean, hell, her dad's over there in AEW with the Pinnacle. I don't know, man. What are your thoughts on AJ Lee returning to wrestling in somewhat of a executive role?
You asking me or Corey?
Dom, I'm asking you.
She had a nice character in WWE, so all I can say is I hope that she helps other young talent develop their characters. Like,
well, do you think, like, what do you think it was that chose now to be the time to get her out there? So for me, I mean, I feel like, you know, Punk coming back into wrestling and being that re-energized with the fans. I mean, because we haven't heard shit from AJ Lee in a long time. AJ Lee has stayed quiet, same as CM Punk.
She has some sort of spinal issue, so she can't.
She did. Work. She had a neck. Yeah, she had a neck issue. Yep.
Yeah, so like I thought she truly cannot work anymore. I thought that CM Punk had said she can't return to the ring. So I'm like, I guess I just hope that she can help some wrestlers find their character. Like that's why I said I don't know what else to say.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I think she's got the mind for it. I mean, like you said, she's a multiple time world champion. She had a great run when she was in WWE. I think it's great to see her back in wrestling. I mean, who knows what that means for what she's really going to do. I'm interested to see what that role really entails. I also think it's pretty cool that they're going to bring Izzy, who started as
13-year-old or whatever.
Yes. Izzy is involved with WOW Superheroes. Now
she could cut a promo better than most people in the business. Actually, I've heard her cut some.
Well, and she does her thing with the interviews and all that, and I've seen her do some training with Tessa Blanchard and stuff like that. Now, I think, just as a fan of wrestling, dude, I think that shit's just pretty cool that she's involved in it. She's still in high school. I want to say 15 or 16.
I wanted to say 16, but
I want to say 15 or 16. If I'm not mistaken. Hell, Izzy, if you watch this, you're welcome on the show. But with that being said, like I said, it's cool to see somebody like that who literally, Corey, like she was like the Bailey fan, used to dress up like Bailey at the NXT shows and shit, and then just continued to go to the NXT shows because she lived in Florida, and then now had like her own like little interview segment that she made and did on Instagram and all that stuff, and then was training to become a wrestler and all that kind of stuff, and then now to see this stuff is pretty cool. I'm interested to see what comes out of that with WOW, the Women of Wrestling. So let's talk a little bit about the MMA side of things. To take things, maybe it's a little bit of a Debbie Downer thing, but it came out that there has been a death due to injuries from the fight in BKFC. Corey, what are your thoughts on the look of this for Bare Knuckle FC when people are already going to kind of be skeptical as it is, and then you got Masvidal just made Gamebred FC versus Bare Knuckle MMA. See, what are your thoughts on the tragedy for Bare Knuckle FC, and prayers out to his family?
Yeah, absolutely. It started out that way. Rest in peace. Never like to see an athlete go down. Of course, it's unfortunate. Everything in that regard. We had kind of noted on Tuesday's show, for anybody who may be a returning viewer and got to see what I had to say about it then, But with that being said, I hate to be like the guy that's like, oh, stuff like that. He didn't die in the ring. He did suffer.
But he took a pretty gnarly knockout, though.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. He took a very sustained, serious neck injury from poor. He didn't properly defend his face. He got knocked the fuck out and then landed very hard on said face on the fucking floor, hurt his neck, and then all this negative media is coming out about BKFC, even though the match isn't necessarily what killed him. He had an injury from falling on his neck bad and then wasn't able to properly treat his pneumonia because of the neck injury. So how this is like being so closely tied with BKFC.
I can answer that, but go on.
Go ahead if you're able to.
Well, here's where a lot of that's coming from. If you notice watching a lot of those Bare Knuckle FC cards, not so much in the Game Bred FC. Well, even in the Game Bred FC one, a lot of the people that are coming over to Bare Knuckle FC, I mean, even if you look at this next card that Bare Knuckle FC has coming back, they are getting a lot of guys that are older and out of UFC, and like the guy who died is 38. Right. So the argument that is being brought against this is that they're getting guys who are well past their prime and that of course are going to keep fighting, but is it good for them to be in these fights? Which absolutely. Again then comes back to the question of the commission too.
It's so hard. Yeah, I feel like that should lie on the commission, and a lot of times, depending on which states they go to, and you had actually, I think, noted this, Kyle, that why does BKFC always end up in what city was it that you
Biloxi, Mississippi?
Yeah, Biloxi, Mississippi. That's who it was. And I had pointed out that was one of the first commissions that allowed them, so they love to return there. Yada yada. But a lot of those smaller commissions may not be doing as much due diligence as maybe some of the larger states that do get more frequent work, I guess you could say. With that being said, I don't necessarily think it's just a thing of BKFC. Yeah, they are maybe getting some people who have been on a skid in whether their MMA career, their boxing career, or whatever the case be. But you can see that in the likes of boxing. You can see that in the likes of many other MMA promotions. You can even see it in like the quote-unquote B-League with Bellator. You can see they bring in a bunch of guys that even have losing records to fight some of their, signed athletes and stuff. So,
I get that that's part of the game, but I mean, again, like when you talk about like, people always say, why can they not be compared to the UFC? Because you'll never see some shit like this in the UFC.
Yeah, because the UFC has, thank God, that is what made me such a entrenched combat fan myself, is the UFC. But that being said, I watch a ton of other combat sports.
And I do too now. Don't mistake what I'm saying. I like Bare Knuckle FC. I'm a fan of Bare Knuckle FC. I watched Game Bred FC. I'm not in any way saying that I'm not a fan of Bare Knuckle FC. I'm just saying that that's a lot of the question that's being brought up around this is that is the reason why stuff like this is happening because they'll take on a lot older guys to go and take those fights. Now, it's not like even guys like our boy Josh Burns, who isn't a spring chicken in himself. He's in his 30s as well. But I mean, hey, dude, he just knocked Homie out cold, which if you didn't get to check out the Josh Burns interview, you can check that fine interview out if you hit that fine subscribe button down there in the right-hand corner.
Well,
but Dom, go ahead.
Before you transition it over to Dom, that was one of the points I was going to make, though, is I feel like it's really hard to put like an arbitrary number limit on when somebody should or shouldn't fight, whether they lost 3 fights in a row and they're coming in on a skid or something like that, so they need to be under further consideration or something like that. Like, a lot of that stuff is so arbitrary, and to try to like break that down to pen and paper rules, I feel like it would just lead to more problems than it would actually help the game in my regard, in my thoughts at least.
I mean, I see that, but then again, I think I agree with you. I think that that's a case by case basis, but at the same time, again a case by case basis. Like one of the examples that was being brought up was Joe Riggs. I mean, hell, I've been there
Not to
watching
interrupt
Joe
real quick,
Riggs.
Kyle, but you brought up, just as an example, right? You brought up Josh Burns. He's actually 43, says his Google page right here.
Well,
So if
damn,
you're talking,
I was giving him some good years. See, you're looking good there, sir.
So if you're talking to throw out an arbitrary number,
No, I'm just saying this is the argument that's being brought with somebody dying, is that the guy was 38 years old. All I'm saying is the reason why this stuff is happening because these people are older and have fought. That's all I'm saying. Again, listen to me. I
understand your point. I'm just saying you don't have to keep explaining yourself. I understand what you're trying to say, Kyle. I'm just basically being the devil's advocate to your point because I truly don't feel that way. I feel as though in the modern era of combat sports, man, we see a lot of athletes over 40 that are still doing very well. So, like I say, to put a number out there that says these athletes need to be done at 38, for instance, because he's too old, then what about people like Anderson Silva and stuff like that he's 44 at this point or something and is still doing very well in his boxing career in a completely different sport.
Can't argue that.
The devil's advocate, but there are very few people, like in what we could take soccer, for instance, who can play past 34 and not have to go to, say, play in Qatar or in the MLS here. Yeah. So there is something to, like, Cristiano Ronaldo is in the Premier League at 36. That's not a regular thing. And to bring up Anderson the Spider Silva at 44, you might as well be talking about Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yeah, I mean, that is a definite, standout example. For
outlier.
Sure.
The outliers.
But that's why I brought up, and I actually wanted to confirm the age of who Kyle had brought up with Josh Burns, because you could very much argue he is on the highest point of his fighting career. He is now scheduled, or at least rumored to be fighting for the BKFC heavyweight belt next. So he's literally.
Well, I agree, but see, that goes back to what I was saying too, and that it's more of a case by case
too. Like, who do you?
But I mean, in Burns' case, again, that goes by what I'm saying, though. Like, I feel like it's a case by case basis. Okay, so Josh lost his last fight before this one, but then before that, he knocked out Chris Sarro. And then he comes back and gets this nasty knockout over Shoemaker, who he'd been supposed to fight Shoemaker about 2-3 times now. We even had him on the show to talk about fighting Shoemaker. Yeah. So, I mean, again, I think that to say it's a certain age, like, okay, you shouldn't fight past a certain age, I think that's a little bullshit. But with that being said, I think that's why I say it's a case by case basis. Where
I agree with that, case by case.
You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it depends on the severity of your knockouts. It depends on, can you pass the medicals? It also depends on, can you pass the medicals? When you're doing the open workouts, I mean, or doing your fighter workouts, I mean, are you taking too many shots in training? But again,
it's like Wisconsin running backs. They do great in Wisconsin, but they run the ball so often that they have short NFL careers because they took too much punishment while they were young. It's the same kind of concept when you want to talk fighting. The more hits, you only get so many hits to your head. There's only so much your body can endure. Right. There's only so much you can do.
Yeah,
there's only so much you can take.
Roll back the odometer. Once a mile gets put on it, a mile gets put on it. There's no rolling it back. So.
And that's why it's a case by case basis. That's the guys who can bob and weave can have longer careers.
Yeah, but I feel like before we do transition, I feel like a lot has been brought up in the MMA media, in particular, about this story. And as much as I want to preference it with, like you say, Kyle, rest in peace, and I hope the best for the Thornton family, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
I really do wish the best for everybody involved, and I'm sorry for your loss and everything along those lines. But it is a combat sport, And
you know what risk you take.
injury-
I agree with that 100%.
Injuries do happen. I mean, we've seen people get hurt from any possible.
Boxing's had plenty of deaths.
Yeah, boxing in particular is well noted for struggling with actual deaths, whether it be in the ring or out of the ring, very shortly after. So it's like you can enjoy your time and try to make money off racing cars, but there's a risk. There's an inherent risk involved when you sign up for something like that.
It's
Same
like the
thing
old
with fighting.
WWE promo videos, bro. It's like the old black and white videos they used to play before the pay-per-view would play. There's a risk you take every time you step between the ropes. Please, we ask
Don't
you,
try
please
this
do
at
not
home.
try this at home. Like, dude, like, I mean, there's a reason why they do that shit. It's
Yeah.
this, and with fighting, I mean, let's face it, dude. It's the same with wrestling. That's why they always tell you, like, don't do this shit unless you're trained, because I mean, you could break your neck, or in this guy's case, get knocked out. And, you know, I mean, the thing is, man, once you're knocked out, I've been knocked out before. Here, I got balls enough to say it. I got knocked out. When you get knocked out, it's not like you have control of how you fall.
Right.
You get hit and you're done. There is no control over how you fall. There's no, unless the referee's able to catch you. But in most cases, you get hit and you got to realize your whole body is coming down with you. So
limp.
like, right, you're limp and dead weight, so you're just coming down, and it's like, I mean, again,
You fall at
you have
awkward
no
angles.
control until you come back true. That's the same as why, like, when people want to talk about what happened with Kevin Holland and Dawkins the other day, I mean, when people say, well, oh, he came back to and was fighting, well, no shit. He hit his head and woke up in the middle of and the last place he knew he was in a cage fight. What are you going to do? I mean, I'm not going to just sit there, oh, shit. Hold on. Wait a minute. What's going on? So, I mean, like, just to preface that for those who are like, well, why, you know, like, why would he, you know, keep fighting if he was really that hurt?
It's a sticky situation no matter how you look at it. I feel very bad for all people involved, including BKFC, because I feel as though they're a promotion on the rise and they're doing everything they can to be legitimate.
Oh, yeah, I definitely don't blame
legitimate
BKFC.
They're trying their best to be legitimate, though, in a sport that is inherently dangerous as hell and looks even worse than most combat sports out there. And they're trying their best to be the safe version of something that is very dangerous. And for this kind of light to happen within their first, 3 years of running or whatever it's been, maybe 4 at the most to this point, it is a bit of a bad look, and I feel like the way that the media is portraying it is just burying the promotion even more. I feel like that's not
buy or
necessarily-
sell on the worst look. Guy dying in BKFC or Raven putting a guy on a cross, imitating crucifixion.
Raven putting a guy on a cross, 110%, because
just thought I'd ask the question.
110%, because at least the guy in the ring knew what he was getting himself into. Nobody that showed up to that show expected to see a guy lifted up on a cross. I still think that's one of the most bullshit and never should have been done angles in wrestling. I think it was disgusting and distasteful. I mean, Paul Heyman's come out and said he thinks Paul Heyman's it was his show. And Paul Heyman was like, look, dude, that should have never happened. It's single here, Corey. Here's something for you, since you won't know this. That's why Kurt Angle never went to ECW. Kurt Angle was there at ECW that night, and he was going to go to ECW because he was friends with Taz. And then when they did that, Kurt Angle said, you better not never show my face or my likeness on TV with that. And if you do, I'll sue you.
I mean,
there's just things you don't touch. It's the same way with Khabib blowing up at Conor. There's things you don't touch. And me personally, again, I've made it no secret. Yes, I'm a Christian, and I'm not going to go into that, but I just don't think that should have been done like that. I just
thought it was a question worth asking. It's a
I know.
Interesting.
I just was bringing it up because Corey wouldn't know what the angle was from,
But just like I say, it's just unfortunate. I feel bad for a promotion that's doing their best to do everything on the.
I agree, and that's what I was getting at though with BKFC. I was just praising them in Tuesday's episode, which you can check out if you haven't already hit that damn subscribe button. But that being said, man, like I was just praising them. They're trying to do pensions for fighters and set them up so that they're set up after they're done fighting. So I'm not at all saying that BKFC is not doing everything they're doing, because there's no other promotion that's giving fighters pensions. So again, I'm not saying that they're not doing what they can. I just am saying the fact that they happen to be a bare knuckle promotion, I just feel like is going to heap them a little bit more heat. But with that being said, and talking about things we feel bad about, it's been announced that Holly Holm is out of her fight, and the one to take her spot is going to be Aspen Ladd, who, for those of you who don't know, she just missed weight. Was it last weekend? She was supposed to fight at 135 and couldn't make weight. And now the UFC's response is she was already in shape for a fight, so she's still in shape. So now she's going to fight at 145. Now, here's where the controversy comes with this. Not only is she going to go get another chance at a fight when you just miss weight and cost somebody else a payday the week before. I mean, no, well, she's going to get her show money, but she's getting a main event slot. So you miss weight and you're getting a main event slot. So you're going to potentially make more money and fight at a weight where, shit, you're already on weight. Your opponent's got to still make weight, but shit, you're already on weight, and we're going to put you in the main event.
And
fans
all week have been just on social media going crazy on Aspen Ladd, talking about she needs to just make the trip up to 145. She just needs to do it. And then, like, she literally gets this basically handed to her on a platter. A girl who's only one fight into the UFC. Granted, Norma Dermott looked very impressive in her lone fight in the UFC.
But Aspen Ladd was near a title to be fighting somebody like her.
Aspen Ladd was much higher in contention, much more well known by fans and stuff along those lines. And for her to basically get gifted a main event slot from when she was in a co-main, I believe the week before, wasn't, like you said, wasn't able to make weight. She only missed by, I believe it was 1.5 pounds. And the further story behind that is her opponent.
But they said she was manipulating the scale.
Yeah. I think that's Misha Tate angling for a fight. I think that's what that is.
Okay, well, I was gonna go into that though. So go ahead.
Well, before the whole story with what actually happened that week, though, was Macy Chiasson, her original opponent for that fight, wasn't willing to accept the fight after she came in overweight. It wasn't.
She's also had a history of it too, though, to be fair.
Well, that's why she did it. She basically said, "What the fuck? You made us already reschedule this bout, and then you get the date that you wanted in the long run, and then still come in overweight. I'm not taking the fight. Give me my money." Is what she did, which I can't argue with. I hope they give Macy Chiasson a fight in the very immediate future, because she has also been training and doing everything she can. Maybe she should have accepted the fight, but I cannot.
No, hell no.
For saying no in that situation, not at all. But when your opponent's getting paid more than you and you're about to get 20 or 30% of her purse, it's not a bad idea, though.
All right, before I give my thoughts, Dom, you being somebody who's trained, I want to know, and Corey's, I'm not saying because you haven't trained, but I'm saying you would have a valuable opinion on this as well. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think if somebody gets popped multiple times for missing weight like that, what do you think is like proper recourse for that? Because, I mean, I damn sure would say it probably is not. There you go. You get a main event at a higher weight class since you're already at weight.
Yeah. I agree with the principle, but as you look at practicality in the real world, if you're looking at it realistically, I do agree you probably shouldn't be rewarded. But bring it to football, Deshaun Jackson, right? You can be a distraction as long as you are worth that money, as long as you are worth Kyrie Irving this year being a distraction and not wanting to take the vaccine. And this isn't an argument over whether you should go get it, but if the state or the NBA says you need to follow the rules of your stadium and your state, and we're going to leave it to them. And if they say you can't enter the building because you don't have a vaccine, well, then that means you don't get to play and you don't get paid. The Brooklyn Nets might just get rid of him because he's not going to be valuable enough to them during the season because that's half of your games out the window. My point, because he's one of the best players. I don't know about beloved, but because he is one of the top 15, 20 recognizable basketball stars globally, not just the U.S., like globally, they're trying to convince him to stay. Like not Lamar Jackson. I'm sorry, Deshaun Watson. He has more I don't want to say convictions, more allegations than the Jets do points this year, and people are still talking about trading 2 first-round picks for him. Should he be rewarded for his behavior? Probably not. But what is your value? And
see, but I feel like that's different in this situation because in order for you to even be able to fight, you gotta make weight. And she's got a history, but she's got a history of it. And I'm not saying that Aspen Ladd isn't a badass because I'm by no means trying to even hint at that.
There should be
because she's up there.
They should attack her money, fine her.
But they did that. So I also think though there should be a certain thing where if you do this 2 or 3 times, that the UFC should then be like, okay, if you're not making weight at this weight, then you need to move up weight.
Yeah.
Like I understand that it can happen a couple times, but she's missed weight at least 3 times now, Corey?
I believe so.
At least 3 times that I can remember of off top of my head, she's missed weight. And I'm not saying that again, shit happens. Like again, I was talking about before we went on the air that I went down the Cage Warriors wormhole and Shanks that was in the main event of Cage Warriors 129. He missed weight for a title fight by a couple pounds. I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a monetary gain, and customarily there's usually a 20% or a 30% dock from your opponent's money. But when you miss weight 3-4 times, I feel like there should be some kind of mulligan.
A stricter.
Right. At a certain point, you're not making 135. And then here's the other thing. Jimmy Smith, who also happens to be your commentary on Monday Night Raw. Shout out to Jimmy Smith. But that being said, dude, like then look at it in this sense, right? So she just went through a weight cut in which she couldn't make the weight and was trying to quote unquote, whether it happened or it didn't, manipulate the scale or whatever happened, but you were already sucked out enough that you didn't make weight. Now you're going to have her come back and fight again right after that. What happens if she goes in there and because she's so sucked out, just gets caught and has no chin? And then again, that ends up being on the UFC. So this has the potential
of
that
either not her punishment then?
No, I agree, but that's what I'm saying. Let me finish my point. That's why I say this is such a weird situation because it's either got the seesaw of on one end, this could either be really good for Aspen Ladd and just be like the seamless transition into 145, or for the UFC, it's not only going to look like you favored this chick, but if she goes in there and gets knocked the fuck out, then you look like jerks for putting her in the cage.
Well,
so
I think one thing.
And then if you're Dana White, say, well, she should have made weight the last 3 times, or one of the last 3 times.
One of the things that's failed to be mentioned though in this conversation is we're forgetting to bring up that there is literally zero depth in the 145 division, like absolutely zero.
And
that's
a great point.
To the point where there isn't even rankings in the division. So with that being said, the fact that they had a main event already lined up in, it's not this week's event, but it's the following, right? If you had a main event in a weight class that is so short of a roster like that, you kind of have to pull whatever string you can, and I feel like that's kind of what they were forced to do. That's why they called.
And I agree. I understand making chicken salad a chicken shit. But I agree with what Dom said, though. It's just fucked up that not only is she getting another fight, you're going right to a main event. Now, I'm not hating on somebody for getting an opportunity, but the fighter in me, how long have we been watching fights, Corey? And what's the number one thing I bitch about?
Yeah, hands down or not making weight. One of the two.
It drives me insane because, dude, like, especially for a guy who's like, a guy, or in this case, a girl who, like if they're really big trying to make it down to 135 or something like that, like, dude, weight cuts suck. For those of you that have never had to do one, let me tell you, if you've really got to cut weight cuts suck. And when you add that,
raise your hand if you've ever starved yourself not drinking water or eating food for 3 days straight.
Or here's one. How about running in
95?
Here's one.
Sorry,
here's one. Let's run in 95-degree heat with trash bags on and a hoodie and sweatpants over that while I'm shadow boxing, running down the road trying to sweat I can get it off.
8 miles in like that. Every day before practice.
I had to coordinate my bowel movements to make sure that I could play fucking pee-wee football because I was too tall and too big at the final stages. So at 11 years old, I'm fucking worrying about when I shit, what I eat, what I can drink, what I can't. All of this at such a young age just because I was 6 foot tall.
I'm with you. At 13 years old, like I said, I took my first boxing match at 13 years old. Dude, try cutting weight when you're a 13-year-old kid when all anybody wants to eat is nothing but junk and fucking drink pop and shit. And
I was already skin and bones, dude. Like, I was skinnier than I am now. Where was I supposed to lose weight from? I was like, what do you guys want me to do? They're like,
well, imagine getting down to 120.
You got to chew gum. You got to chew gum, and you got to like take your milk carton at school, right? I used to do this. I would buy the milk, pour out the milk, and then I would spit. I'd have the gum, and I just spit in it. I'd take it with me to class, and I'd try and do it when nobody would notice, and I'd hide it and whatever. Like, but yeah, I would just spit in it, and then I'd go to the bathroom and dump it out in between classes, and I'd lose 2 pounds in a day. Spitting in a cup
of saliva, 2 pounds of
saliva. chewing gum all day,
and then the best,
and then you gotta run. You gotta run when you go. Then you got practice,
dude. The best is when you do the long run, and then you come in to do the sparring, and then like you get like you're already super fucking hot because you were running, and then you're hot from sparring. So if you did eat like shit before you sparred, man, the throwing up from that is like the worst because it just burns the shit out of your throat. It's right now. And if you're in the middle of a round, you're just like, oh my God, shit, don't let him hit me in the body. Oh my God, don't hit me in the body.
Bro, with all that,
I literally run off the mat to go puke in the middle. Like, you know what? Nobody wants to have to stop everything we're doing.
Hey, dude, I've been there.
Clean off the mats. Like, yeah, it's...
So... With all of this being said, we all understand that it's hard for Aspen Ladd to make 135, and this is why the move to 145 makes perfect sense in anything except for a main event slot. But
I'm with you. Well, with that being said, dude, I mean, to jump back over to the wrestling end, because I can't not talk about it. You know, Corey, myself, and I have fucked up the exact amount of time that AEW that's been around, but we know for sure because this past Wednesday was AEW Dynamite's 2-year anniversary show. And I figure we can't not talk about that. Now, before we talk about the show itself, I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about. You know, I was looking into some of the metrics just to kind of look at some of the magnitude of where they've been able to get in 2 years. But I mean, when you think about it, for a brand new company that starts from the ground, now, obviously they have great talent there and they have money there and they have, look at WCW back in the day. They had all those things too, but the difference is they didn't have like, I don't know. They always kind of had that, like, at least in my opinion now, because there's some people that were WCW guys over WWF guys back in the day. So they would still argue with you that WCW is better, but production value, WWF always kind of seemed like they might have been like a tad above them, where AEW, you know, they're doing it but they're still learning along the way because they're 2 years in. But for them to only be 2 years old and to be averaging over $1 million a week right now, you know, they're about to move over to TBS and they've got 2 successful shows. You know, I mean, in their short time have already had pay-per-views, which are being, you know, compared to some of the best pay-per-views of the last 10 years. I mean, they've come out they've come out pretty fucking hot. I mean, Dom, what are your thoughts on AEW as a whole, as a company? How do you think, what grade would you give them as at the 2-year mark?
Plus A minus?
Yeah,
somewhere in the high B plus to
that's
A
fair,
minus.
because they definitely still got shit they got to work on. Like obviously
perfect.
when it comes to like when Jericho went off the cage and it looked like he went through the box or whatever, there's little things that you can nitpick and bitch about. But if you want to talk about overall excitement, dude, yes,
a fun show to watch.
Their impact on the wrestling game has been just gigantic. Like from an outsider's perspective, like I genuinely see just as much, if not even more, speculation, talk, banter about AEW as I do WWE. The only thing I can see where they're continuing to build, like you say, I mean, all production things that are trying to do live or even semi-live with, human actors and stuff, they're all going to, humans make mistakes. So production can always improve in one way or another. But what they need to continue to do is get themselves in stores, get toys out, get stuff like that. Their video game that's coming out, stuff like that, I feel like is where they're going to continue to build their brand.
Quick note on the video game. You hear that Owen Hart will be a playable character on that video game?
I'm fucking all for it, dude. Again, anything that keeps Owen Hart's legacy alive, dude.
Like, look at it like this. You could be getting this AEW game. You will be getting Owen Hart, Sting, Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard, Jake the Snake Roberts. They'll have all CM Punk and Bryan Danielson on top of the Kenny Omega and
Adam Cole.
Right. You will have all of
the Young Bucks.
I heard something about this game getting delayed because they have too many debuts and they got to add more people to it.
There's
well, dude, that's just DLC content.
Fair, but
WWE used to do that shit all the time. Every time there would be like a big signing, DLC content pack number 5.
No, I'd rather they put the game in with everyone they have in now. And if Kevin Owens comes in later, I'll buy that Kevin Owens DLC pack. But I'm not trying to buy a bunch of different characters. Like, give me everybody you have right now, all of them. Give them to me.
Honestly, like, as an outsider's perspective, that's one thing that I did always enjoy from wrestling, like growing up and stuff, and even
video games?
in the later years and stuff, is the wrestling games were always fun as hell.
Oh,
they were always entertaining as hell, and from the direction and everything that I've seen about the way that AEW is going about making their game, it does make me semi excited for a wrestling game, which I hope I get access to. I'm sure I'll come over your house, Kyle, and at least give it a good solid try. But
oh no, you're going to, because we're gonna get down and play. We're going to get down when this AEW game comes out. Hell, we'll get Dom over here too. And just all the more reason that you got to subscribe to the YouTube channel, because
we're going to have a play-a-thon or a
play-a-thon. Oh yeah, we're going to have them. We're talking about King of the Ring and all that shit.
Tournament.
We're going to have a casino battle royal for this bitch. But talking about that, I mean, that's a great way to go into the show, man. I mean, because you had a casino ladder match. Damn. But before we get to the ladder match, what are your thoughts on the game, Dom? Since you are the FIFA extraordinaire,
I want to see a storyline in the career mode.
Yes,
my favorite WWE was like the SmackDown versus Raw, where you had that career mode where you started out as a rookie and you had to climb your way to the top, try and earn your number in the Royal Rumble and work hard to be a later entrant, win more matches. You get to be later in the Royal Rumble. Like, I love that. If you're going to
have you heard what this game's going to be based off of?
No, I have not.
So and again, you won't know until then. But did you get to play any of the Nintendo games from back in the day?
The WWE ones,
the WWF ones. So No Mercy, WrestleMania 2000.
Like at one of my friends' house, like I played a few.
No Mercy has one of the best story modes of all fucking time.
Okay.
No Mercy has one of the best story modes of all fucking time because you could play it with anybody, and every time you'd play it, it'd be different. And it was one of the hardest ones you'd play, but it was like one of the most rewarding ones for you to win, or at least I remember it being that way. But it's one of the most highly acclaimed story modes that there's ever been. Kenny Omega being the big video game.
When they come out with the Switch, they are gonna have not to come out with it, but they're gonna come up with not necessarily a streaming service, but a subscription where you can get all of the old N64 games and whatever all uploaded, and you can play them on your Switch. So you could probably go back and play that No Mercy game on a Switch.
That'd be dope. I mean, my buddy,
Just
our
throwing
buddy,
that out there.
friend of the show, Jimmy Mills, we were getting down on some No Mercy on the old N64. But the other thing that makes me excited for the AEW video game is that THQ is the one that's doing it. THQ used to do all the WWE games, and they were pretty damn good back in the day. So
better than 2K Sports.
I agree 100. I agree 110. I agree 110%. So that's another
thing.
And they got.
Not to interrupt, Kyle, being a big video game fan, though, THQ has had their ups and downs as a company. And
sure,
stuff,
but as far as wrestling games, they did way better than 2K.
I'm not saying as their games. They've always produced very good games, but this is to the point I was going to make. They've always found a way to kind of struggle to monetize their games after the fact, and to keep up in today's market, that's basically what you have to do, is put out a game that's 12 years old that still makes money. And
like GTA,
GTA. My favorite game currently, Hunt Showdown, is like.
That's where Tony Khan should be able to help with that idea.
Well, that's what I was going to say. This is the perfect game for that to happen.
They should, in your guys' regard, they should be lacking the DLC content. You guys shouldn't be spending money after the fact on this game, because THQ is almost notorious for not monetizing their games in that way. So,
that's cool. I'm 100% okay with that.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's
I'm 100%. I hate having to pay for DLC. I hate it. Like, just release the whole game to me. I don't want to have to pay for the extra stuff.
Yep.
Well, speaking of that, let's get to the show itself. I mean, there was a lot that went down last night. Like I said, it was the 2-year anniversary. You had the big 8-man to start the show with Jurassic Express and Christian and Danielson versus the Elite, which was Kenny. And then the thing is, they're going back to the badass match that we had a few days ago, a couple weeks ago now, with Danielson versus Kenny. I can't wait to see them tie it up again, dude. So, and then you add Adam Cole to that mix. I think it's only a matter of time. I mean, obviously they're tight right now, but I think at some point, obviously Adam Cole's going to get back against Kenny Omega. But in the meantime, you can keep doing this Kenny Omega, Bryan Danielson shit all you want. I am totally okay with it.
Well,
Dom, what did you think? Or Corey, go ahead.
Corey,
my bad. I didn't know you were going to say anything. My bad.
Yeah, with wrestling, very understandable. Go ahead, lead to Dom every time, except for this one, because with all the talk and everything that happened with that first match that they had, I feel like you say, it's very fitting for them to continue to keep doing it while it's still hot. The skillet's still on.
And it went to a time limit draw.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So keep that fire going.
They had to. Yeah. They had to bring that to a time limit draw or have some debauchery. And I feel like the time limit draw adds more intrigue to it. It's not. It shows that Kenny isn't a weak champion in the ring with Daniel Bryan. Like, there's no reason that he's not on the level. It's not that he needed anyone else to step up and defend him, but time ran out. Draw and champion's advantage. Works for a great story. And again, how are you going to keep all of these people away from the title belt? And Daniel Bryan having this claim to, I should be able to have that shot. And I think they will keep the belt on Omega. Omega. I think Kenny Omega. Anyway, I think
Omega. That's a Japanese announcement, but
But I feel like Hangman's going to be the guy to take it off of him, and well, I guess segues into the next part.
Oh, I think Hangman's definitely going to be the one to take it off him. I think, but go ahead.
I told you that
it's a perfect segue.
Right. I looked up before the show to try and see, is it like the money, and are they making it like Money in the Bank where it could be cashed in any time? And it seems like it's just going to be
poker chip's always been like a last guy that had it. He announced when he was going to turn it in, so it wasn't quite like the Money in the Bank. But I mean, I think with it being Kenny still champ, oh, dude, that's got to come down to a showdown, because let's not forget, I mean, they were your first AEW tag team champions. Kenny and Hangman were the first tag team champions, so that's got to come down to a big showdown at one of the pay-per-views or a big show or something. So I feel like that's going to be one of the...
You act like I'm not the guy who told you that this is who was going to take it months ago.
No, but I'm just saying, what I'm saying is I don't think that that's a match where it would be something like, even if it was like cash-inable, I'm just saying I don't think that would be a match that they would use in that kind of sense is what
I'm okay. I'm not asking for a, hey, cash in right here, right now. It's I get to choose when I want it, though. I get to decide what event I want it.
I think that's...
You win it, and it's a set date for you. I don't want it to be a set date for him. I want him to be able to decide the date of the cash-in.
Yeah, I think they quote-unquote choose, I mean, as far as I know.
Okay, because Go ahead, Corey.
I do think, though, if they do release it as more of a surprise, I'm going to, release the date, but maybe 2 weeks ahead of time or 3 weeks ahead.
Well, they don't usually, like I said, I mean, if
whatever pay-per-view or whatever the case that they're going.
Corey, have you watched any Lucha Underground?
No.
Okay. The Gift of the Gods title, long story short, it is the Money in the Bank. However, you have to give 1 week for for Dario Cueto, the promoter, to promote it. So he's like, you can have it whenever you want. You win this title. It's got all those 7 Aztec medals, because it's basically one to each person. And they all come and fight and try and put them all together and for the belt, right? You got to get one of those medals to be in the match. You win the match, all those medallions go in the belt, and then you carry that around as the Money in the Bank, so to speak, and you got a week to cash in. Something like that. That's what we're talking about.
I would like for them to come out with something for that for AEW.
Isn't that what the poker chip?
But I don't know that there's any I still, since they've only done it once so far, I've only really seen it where somebody was like, okay, I'm going to take my title match at All Out, let's say, or whatever. I'm just saying they haven't really put like any type of real stipulations on the cash in or anything where like WWE, you can cash in whenever. And like in Impact, they got option C, where if you've got the fucking briefcase, you can, you've got the X Division title, you can cash it in for a world title shot. I'm just saying, I think that would be a cool ripple to it if they add some kind of particular stipulation that's specific to AEW. I don't know what that would be. If any of you guys are watching and got any ideas, feel free to let me know in the comments. But I'm just saying, I think that would be a cool ripple to it. But I think most people thought, myself included, Hangman was the person that had to win that. I mean, especially knowing that he had just had a kid. And I mean, it's no secret. I've said this long before AEW really started, that Hangman is one of their blue chippers for sure.
I was going to say, what if their gimmick for this was champions, if the match ends via champion's advantage, meaning count out or whatever, then you get an automatic rematch. Like, you get another, if it goes to a time limit draw, automatic rematch. Like, you get it back. Like, that should be anyways, but it would be a specific one it's just unexplained.
So I don't think that one would work for this reason. That wouldn't work, because then if you did all that to win the briefcase, or in this case, a poker chip, why the fuck should the champion have any sort of advantage? Like, if I did all that to win this ladder match, or this was a ladder match too, so I did all that to win the ladder match, the champion shouldn't get any kind of fucking advantage, because he didn't have to win the ladder match to get the damn thing.
No, but He's had to defend his title.
I
He had
agree
to
with that.
earn the title.
But that's why I don't think taking away the champion's advantage is the way to do it.
No, it's not. It's not taking it away. It's saying if it ends on a champion's advantage, you get another shot.
But that does take away the champion's advantage because then he's got to fight him again.
Yeah, but you can keep doing this. Like he could accidentally get him disqualified. Well, yeah, try not to get disqualified. And they never ever have. They've only had one disqualification.
But you also got to think about it, though, bro. They don't want to make the rules too complicated for somebody who's not necessarily a wrestling fan to watch it. I think that's why if they put any kind of stipulation on it, I think it's going to be more so to do with the cash in itself with the poker chip versus something on the match, unless they come up with a specific kind of match that it ends up happening in.
So at that point, it should be all out or double or nothing because those are gambling.
Oh, I agree. That I got no problem with that.
Pay-per-views that you got to cash in on one of those.
Oh, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that if that was the route you want to do with that. But let's take it away from the matches for a little bit. Arn Anderson has been causing a lot of headlines with these promos where he's getting in the ring on live TV and telling Cody, sometimes, man, it comes a time in a man's life where he tries to pull you out the car and you got to splatter a man's brains on the pavement. I mean, goddamn, Double A is letting Cody know what's good.
Not only did he say that, he called Cody out because I actually watched the clip back because
he said I want to coach winners. And at least you listen. I'm going to take him. At least he listens to me.
Like, you're the type that would let him take your car. I'm the type that would pull the gun out and blow his brain. And I'm like, well, damn. Like that was like the layer that stuck out to me was not like, oh, I'm the guy that does this. It's that you're the guy that let somebody take your shit.
He's basically said you're gone soft. That was what's good. And then he upped it. He upped it 1 iota on this week's show. So on this week's show, he's in Cody's backyard with a fucking trash can with a fire in it. And he's got Cody's suits in it, and he's putting it over the damn fire as Cody realizes, oh shit, something's burning in my backyard. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? He makes Cody take off his tie and shit and throw it in the fire to further push home the point. Like, look, man, you've lost your edge. See, now I've got a theory on what I'd like to see happen with all this. I don't think it'll happen, but I think
he's turning heel.
Oh, I think it would be
his character.
No, this one's kind of elaborate. This one's kind of down the rabbit hole.
I want to see him turn heel.
Oh, dude, I do too. I think Cody Rhodes is just as good a heel as he is a babyface, but I also think they've tried to push the babyface route too much. But
yeah, and they're going too much with the patriotic storyline.
Oh, I agree. I don't think the patriotic thing, as you saw on Roads to the Top, I don't think that really worked with Anthony Ogogo. But
as somebody who was unfamiliar with him when I started the podcast and kind of started to dip my toe, I guess, in the wrestling world to this point, I didn't know who Cody Rhodes was or anything like that. And the first time I had watched AEW, they had leaned in, like you said, with that heavy patriotic route. And I'm like, how are you going to put fucking German-looking Himmler with fucking full blonde hair up there as your, like, fucking American representative guy? And
well, that's why you get the
Hold on. So I have to tell you the backstory on that because there's perfect reason. Do you not know who his dad is?
The American Dream, baby.
The American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. I am the second most recognizable athlete next to Muhammad Ali. All right. Look, bro. Dusty Rhodes is one of the best ever. Period. Done. Like, end of story. Go look up Dusty Rhodes promos and watch any of his stuff or listen to anybody talk. He's one of the best ever, period. Plus, he was a former pro baseball player, and he could have played pro football too. Dusty Rhodes was the essential white meat, baby face, blonde-haired, blue-eyed Texan. So,
with a list.
Cody Rhodes now is blonde-haired and blue-eyed. That was a tribute to his dad. So, Normally, I'm all for fucking with somebody on that. But on this one, I cannot let you disparage the great name of the American Dream, Dusty Rhodes. Damn it.
I can let you disparage Cody, though. Like, he does kind of look weird with the bleach blonde.
No, I can't lie. At first, it was a little weird at first, especially because Cody always had the brown hair. I definitely agree. But now that he's had it for a little while, and Dustin, most of the time when he does have hair, has blonde hair, I'm okay with it.
I'm okay with it. It still looks a little odd.
As somebody who's now seen more than one event and seen him, compete a couple times to this point, it's not the worst. It from what it was, like the initial shock of it, I guess you could.
It definitely sticks out like a sore thumb. I get that.
His neck tattoo.
I still don't get it, bro. That would have been like the perfect chest piece,
tattoo.
Bro.
Yeah, right.
Like that would have been, or a shoulder cap,
right?
Not even the back. Like that would have been the perfect shoulder cap. As somebody
who say anywhere up in here, your upper back, right?
Right. As somebody that has a lot of tattoos, like you could have put that as a badass shoulder cap, or you could have done like a chest piece. But man, hey, but balls to you for jumping
Brandy
right in the water.
Full send right into the net.
But his wife doesn't like it, and
I mean, she's having his kid, so
yeah, I do feel, and I'm a rare person. I feel, I mean, as much as I love my long hair, I would cut it if the right woman was like, yeah, I prefer short hair. I feel like it's your responsibility to look attractive to your significant other.
Well, my point is, clearly she doesn't think it hurt him that bad if they had a kid after he got the tattoo.
You're not going to leave your spouse over a tattoo.
Well, that's my point. We're a little past that point.
But it's your responsibility to go, you're not okay with that? That bugs you? All right, yeah, I'll put that somewhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like,
But what is I agree with that. I agree. I get what you're saying, but I feel like with them having a TV show and a kid and being married, we're a little past that point. But what did you think about the promo, dude? How did you think that they were able to further elevate what Arn was trying to push home the week before? And what do you think? We got off on this long diatribe. What I think that is going to turn into is, and hear me out, this is all hypothetical because it's all got to play into place. But what if, obviously they want to give Cody Rhodes some kind of edge back, but maybe this is just because I'm a nerd for some of the old school stuff, but I'd love to see a new school Horseman, bro. I feel like that's what they're trying to do with the Pinnacle, but you got Arn Anderson, Brock Anderson, Cody Rhodes, Tully Blanchard's in that motherfucker. What happens if eventually down the road, when Pinnacle eventually blows up, when Tully and, FTR leave or some shit like that? What if I don't know. Like I said, just a thought, but
I thought they might reform, but I thought they might have a rivaling Horseman faction where Tully would have his guys, Arn would have his guys.
Right, and that's what I'm saying they could do out of this. When the Pinnacle eventually blows up and implodes, because MJF has got to be head honcho.
Right.
What if it happened that way? But, I mean, that's just a hypothetical.
Well, you're saying they explode and FTR join Arn and Tully.
Right.
I'm saying keep the Pinnacle. Those are Tully's boys. Arn has his own version.
Right, but I'm saying Tully
go
with the Horsemen.
Right, but I'm saying my vision for this was two separate Horseman factions that would do battle against each other.
But they can't. Well, I get what your point. They'd still be Pinnacle. I get what you're saying.
Right. It'd still be the Pinnacle, and then you'd have. It doesn't have to be the second four Horsemen.
I don't think they'd ever call them the four Horsemen.
Because I think WWE has those. I think.
They do. I'm sure. I would almost be willing to bet you money there's a trademark on that shit somewhere.
So, but we'd all look at them as rivaling four Horsemen factions. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Hey, the original four Horsemen, Arn Anderson's promo, he said they were the four Horsemen of the Apocalypse. You call them the Apocalypse. That's what you call them.
Right.
I'm just saying, see, I come up with this shit off the top of my head. But what did you think of the promo? Did you think the promo helped?
I liked it. Cody has been floundering, just directionless. That's the word. He's been, I don't want to say
That's fair.
floundering, but he's been the most directionless guy on the roster. He comes, he leaves, he comes, he leaves, and they throw him in random feuds here and there, like QT Marshall. Who cares? Who actually cared about that feud?
I mean, it didn't have a lot of hype on it. I think that's why that's what this whole Malachi Black thing is for, though.
Hype train. You could have put that entire hype train behind it. No one was interested in QT Marshall.
I agree. It doesn't have the hype on it that Malachi Black does, especially with him coming over from WWE. I'm just saying, I think that's why they're trying to use something like this to give Cody his edge back, because it's clear you better be a bad motherfucker if you're going to fuck with Malachi Black in AEW, because ain't nobody got anywhere close to him. And speaking of bad motherfuckers and where we're going to go and all this stuff, Corey, is perfect time to bring your ass back in. I mean, speaking of bad motherfuckers, I mean, dude, let's face it, Junior Dos Santos may not be dropping elbows in the UFC no more, but he was dropping some elbows on Sammy Guevara's motherfucking forehead on AEW, along with Paige Van Zant, Austin Vanderford, Dan Lambert, Scorpio Sky, and Ethan Page. I mean, what are your thoughts on another run-in from American Top Team on AEW?
If you're asking my thoughts on it, I'm glad to see a couple of people, in particular Junior Dos Santos. I've always been a very, very big fan. I wish nothing but the best for him in his future career, whatever that ends up being. And if wrestling is the transition that he ends up making, I feel even better about that for his career than maybe like the bare knuckle route that was being rumored, or him like going and fighting in Bellator or something like that. I feel as though we have genuinely seen the best of his fighting career, and to continue on in that route would just tarnish his name further. So with that being said, him joining wrestling and getting all this hype behind all the Dan Lambert appearances and stuff, because I keep hearing from everybody that he's doing very well in AEW every time he
dude, Dan Lambert's a fucking pro, dude. He's been good at running his mouth since he was with Impact back in the day, when Bobby Lashley was still with him. That's what he's supposed to be, though.
I know. I'm not saying. I think he's got the Cornette spot. Like,
100%. 100%. And you got to realize
he would be out here yelling and screaming about none of these are real men. These pansies in the back. Let me get my tennis racket out and I'll beat all your asses myself. Like, and then he'd pick, his couple guys and say, these are real men right here. And so because I was thinking in the back of my mind, because you know how Cornette goes you're always hearing Cornette say something about AEW. And in the back of my mind, I was fantasy booking, like, how would Cornette be, like, how would he fit in? Because Cornette will do business with you. He hated ECW and he showed up in ECW one night.
I don't think anybody's touching Cornette at this point, dude.
Right, but right now, no. But I still thought, maybe the never say never, and how would he?
I hear you. I get it. Fantasy booking, I get it. I just don't think AEW's touching him.
I came into it saying I was fantasy booking.
I hear you.
So,
no, that's fair.
If he were to come into the company, he would be exactly what Dan Lambert is. So I'm not trying to say that Dan Lambert is exactly Cornette level. But he's filling that role.
Well, you got to realize that's not a bad comparison, and here's why. The reason why, you got to remember, for those that don't know, Dan Lambert is like a huge wrestling fan, to where he's got one of the best wrestling collections of belts, of old school belts that there is. Like, literally, they were just talking about that on Throwing Down with Renee and Misha. They asked him, what's the most you'd ever spent on a belt? And he's like $30,000 or something like that. So, like, I mean, Dan Lambert is an old school fan, so it's no surprise that somebody like Cornette would be right up his alley. But, since we speak about Cornette and we speak about, Paige Van Zant and females and talking about the Queen's Crown and all these things, it was announced on AEW Dynamite that there now will be another championship inside the women's division. There's going to be a tournament to crown it, And I mean, I guess as good a question as any is do you think that this was? No, it's the TBS championship.
Oh, fair.
It's the TBS championship. Pretty nice looking belt. It looks similar to the TNT championship, but again, I'm not mad at that because it's
nice. I ain't gonna lie.
Yeah, it looked dope, bro.
Nice.
It didn't look bad. And I think it's a very smart move for there to be a secondary title in the women's division in AEW, and here's why.
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to say that is one of the few points I hear kind of thrown at AEW is that's the one thing they're kind of lacking is in their women's division. Their women's and their tag teams are, from what I've heard, is like their tag team
division they focus on a lot, but their women's division is lacking.
Sorry, I may be getting that confused. But either way, their women's division for sure, I've heard that brought up 100+ times. So the fact that they're bringing this new belt in for the secondary show that they're running essentially, and then not only
it's just a secondary championship. So like it's the equivalent to like for AEW, it's the equivalent to the men's TNT or the Intercontinental in WWE or something.
Well, that's what I'm saying as their second network, because the TNT one's only going to be represented on TNT, where the TBS is going to be represented on TBS, right?
No, they're both moving. They're both moving over to TBS.
So Rampage is going to stay on TNT. Dynamite is moving to TBS in 2022. So, I think what this is. I get what your point is, but no, I think it's just to appease the two networks. But I think it's great. I agree with your point. I think that's, I mean, again, I wish WWE would stick to more of this kind of model when it comes to like their Intercontinental and US titles, but they've never had really a secondary title for women. So I think it's a great thing. If they do with the TBS title, what they've done with the TNT title, look what the TNT title did for Miro. Miro made that TNT title fun to watch every week because he just fucking destroyed people. And then Cody,
I can say for sure at the All Out event he got a big pop because of it, so
and you can build up the challenger. Would you not say that Eddie Kingston had like maybe the second biggest pop or one of the biggest pops at All Out because of that?
Definitely top 5, and with all the announcements and everything that happened on the night, that's high ranking. So
exactly my point, which is why I think in a women's division, like you said, that has had its druthers, I think that would be the perfect way for them. Okay, so even if you do like an Impact route, hell, you guys already do the Forbidden Door route with them. If you win the TBS championship and hold it for however long it is, the same way in NWA they used to do with the TV title, where you had to defend it so many times, and then if you did, you could challenge the world champion. Dude, if you use this as a title, like how they used to do the Intercontinental title back in the day, where if you had the Intercontinental title, you were kind of next on that trajectory, dude. I mean, I think that would be a big refresher for AEW for anybody who's watching. What are your thoughts on the TBS championship? Speaking of championships,
I don't get a say on any of them.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, dude. I thought you already.
No, I didn't. I was. Because I know, as I was talking about WWE and the Queen of the
Queen's Crown.
Yeah, the Queen's Crown. Queen's Crown. I don't like this name, if you can't tell. But where I have that level of cynicism there, and I don't know how well they'll use it. I have more faith in AEW knowing how to utilize this tool, because belts are a tool used to get people over. Like they're a utility piece. Not that they aren't to be respected, but especially when they're lower titles, they're definitely a prop, a tool to try and make a wrestler look legitimate. I do have more faith in AEW being able to do that. However, I feel like their women's division is too thin to be doing that right now. You have Thunder Rosa, you have Britt Baker, you have Ruby Soho, and then
Jamie Hayter's going to be a savage. You have Big Swole,
Jade Cargill, but
Jade Cargill is in there. She's going to be a fucking problem. But Nyla Rose.
I'm not a fan of Nyla Rose. I could
not, but she's already been champion, so she's got to be considered in it.
She feels bland to me. just straight up bland. I don't care to see her anymore. There's nothing that interests me about her. She's like, I'm brute power, and that's it. Like, it's not my taste.
I get you.
So
I get you. AEW's women's division definitely could still use some more ramping up, but
exactly. So I just don't think there's enough competition, because if you have 2 titles and you have 6 major people to compete for them, and now there's 2 of them, like,
sure, but you got to remember though,
your matchups quite quickly.
This is also where, though, to play devil's advocate, they have 6 hours of TV that's got to be filled up, bro. This is where they could, use AEW Dark and AEW Dark Elevation, get you wins on there, which can make you eligible then for the TBS Championship, and then use that as a way to get somebody ready to be ready for Dynamite. I mean, you have those 2 other shows, and you have Rampage. What if on Rampage, since it's only an hour long, show.
I'm not saying it's a horrible idea. I'm just a little worried. I have some doubts.
Okay.
Is all. Whereas I still have doubts. My doubts are a lot stronger with the Queen's Crown tournament. I said that right this time, right?
Yeah, right.
So, I have more doubts about that. I still have some reservations about a second title, but again, I do have more faith they'll be able to manage it better. And I also have faith that they might, if it doesn't work out and they feel they won't hesitate to pull that title away. I feel like AEW, when they see something isn't gonna work, they'll pull it off. Like, if I pull it off, like they'll take it away. They'll stop showing it.
I don't see them taking a whole title away though. That's different. Like, it's one thing.
Not forever, and I don't want to say. Think about it as for indefinitely. They'll bring it back, but if it's not working, they're running through their matches too much, they might take it away. If somebody gets injured or something, and say, no, we're going to vacate it, and that'll be that. Like, imagine the time they've run through a bunch of matches, and they're realizing, it's a little crowded having everybody try and compete for the same 2 titles.
So I agree with that, except here's the thing. The TNT title kind of started off like that, where it kind of got clunky when they were defending it every week on TV. And then it kind of just was like, okay, so who's going to accept the challenge? But then you have a guy, I think it all depends on who wins the tournament, which is why I think that this makes this interesting, because then to play devil's advocate, as soon as Miro got the title, like Corey just said, Corey is an outside wrestling fan. Miro, as soon as he walked in that motherfucker, and by what he did in the ring, he beat the shit out of Eddie Kingston. And
but you don't think that Darby gave it some legitimacy?
No, I agree. But what I'm saying, though, I'm just making the point that it matters on who has the championship. The reason I say that is, with not knowing who's going to win the TBS championship yet, I feel like it all depends on who's going to win this tournament before we can really judge on whether or not it could be something like that. Yeah, it could, but because the TNT title kind of started like that, sort of, I could see that. But since we're running high on time at this point, dude, the last thing, since you already brought him up, that I have to talk about with AEW Dynamite, MJF versus Darby Allen. I mean, we saw at the end of the show, 3 guys come out that looked awful, like fucking Wardlow and MJF beat the living dog shit out of Darby Allen. Can I just say that before we talk about what we think about this match, which I, for one, think, I've said it 100 times till I'm blue in the face, MJF is the best fucking heel in wrestling, but Darby Allen can take the best ass whipping out of anybody I've ever seen, because that guy gets the shit beat out of him and just keeps coming, dude.
It's all those years where he would get wrecked on the skateboard.
Right, dude. Like, I mean, he's part of the new Jackass movie for a reason.
As somebody who had to,
I didn't even know they were making a new Jackass movie.
As somebody who had to retire their skateboard, that takes a lot of commitment to get back up every time. You are not fucking kidding a little bit at all there. Once you've wrecked for the 30th time, or especially if you've taken a couple hard falls, to get back up and continue to try that same move over, it takes some balls. And for him to get to the level of skateboarding that he did, he took a lot of those falls.
Corey, have you seen any of these vignettes where he's in a body bag?
Dude.
and he's getting dragged.
Yeah, you did. You saw the one at All Out. He got drugged behind a fucking car.
Yeah.
I'm just asking, like this guy is nuts.
And I mean, not to mention, I mean, hell, dude, you talk about All Out, the last All Out I was at before the one you and I went to. He did the coffin drop off the top rope through a Cracker Barrel. No, he did it through a Cracker Barrel on the stairs. So the giant ass Cracker barrels that are out in front of Cracker Barrel, he went through one of them bitches and then smoked his back on the stairs, and then got up and wrestled the rest of the match. So I mean, the dude has got a pain threshold that's insane. But when you pair that with somebody like,
he's going to be a fun character when the game comes out. That's for sure.
I'm not so sure.
He's got to have a crucial part in the story somehow.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm not a fan of like using the coffin drop in a video game. Like it looks cool, but when I watch it, I look and go, that's just a body falling as opposed to like jumping and getting more gravity. Like I think physics wise, I'm like, I don't think that's as devastating as other people.
The simulation's supposed to be the guys coming down on you from 13 feet in the air.
Yeah, but it's where when you jump up, that fall, the longer that gravity has to pull you down for, you fall faster and harder. I think it's 10 feet more per second. Like you fall at a rate of 10, you accelerate 10 feet per second. So if you're up in the air, you jump up and you're up in the air for 1 second already, you have that extra time to fall. That's extra impact. And he just kind of goes, but he doesn't jump. He just falls back. So that's me nitpicking. But that's why I wouldn't really want to use him in the video game. I wouldn't be all that hyped up about using that finisher.
Well, all right, Corey. So after we're done on this, I need you to go do this once we get off the air, because I need next week when we get on the air, I need like your update, since you're the only one of the three of us that has kids. But since you talk about a video game, let's talk about Escaping the motherfucking Undertaker. All right, I got bored today and decided I was going to check out Escaping the Undertaker on Netflix, which for those of you who don't know is an interactive movie they just came out where the New Day tries to steal the Undertaker's urn, which, as we've seen through the years, doesn't really tend to work good for people. I mean, just ask Paul Heyman. I mean, somehow he survived getting covered up in a vat full of cement. But hey, it's pro wrestling. But Dom, you got to watch Escaping the Undertaker.
I did.
What are your overall thoughts?
It was interesting. I kind of like didn't do the storyline consistency because I followed Kofi and had him flee the Undertaker, and yet I had him kick first at the very end. So I'm like, wait, that after I did him, that doesn't make sense. Why would Kofi run away and then say, I got this? So I kind of ruined myself there. But you had said what happened to Big E. You didn't get to see what happened to Big E. I chose to follow him. And he sat and he saw Undertaker's throne. He saw the urn. He saw the throne. He was like, this is the throne? No way. And he goes and sits in. He goes, this feels good.
When I said what happened to Big E is because on mine, so he goes to this big, Corey, so picture my chair like this big ass fucking throne. So you hit the thing, and then on my screen, all of a sudden it cuts to the next thing when you make your little decision, and then Big E goes from what's in this next room to oh shit, I'm locked in this chair with the purple
when he sat
on
down there, and within 3 seconds the urn like strapped him up, and he's like, what, huh? What's going on? And then I'm wondering where's everybody else, and that's when everybody else comes to save him. So I don't know what happened when you followed somebody else, but I come to and Big E's like everybody comes and saves him. And
well, so I chose Kofi, right?
Uh-huh.
So I chose Kofi, and when you choose Kofi, so here's what happens with Kofi. Kofi goes into the little room, and then he comes face to face with the Undertaker, right? And so he comes face to face with the Undertaker, and then hold on, I got it on my note. Give me right here, because I don't got it right in front of me. Give me 1 second. Here you go. Yeah. So all right, Kofi clips. They had Kofi clips playing in the room, right? And he starts to creep his way through, and they're playing clips of his match. Well, then as he's walking up, there's like this painting on the wall of Paul Bearer, and then Paul Bearer just busts in the screen. Oh, yes. Hits him with the Paul Bearer deal, and then the bookshelf has the rest in peace thing. Taker knocked out Kofi, and then it's just sitting there eating a sandwich watching the other three from the control room. He found his way to Undertaker's control room, and Undertaker knocked his ass out. Long story short.
Well, so that's what happened in the time, like after you made the decision, then you find Big E.
Well, then they go back to Big E and Woods are calling for Kofi because Kofi went in the bookshelf. He pulls a book out in the bookshelf, and the bookshelf opens, and then the bookshelf is into where the control room's at.
You went to, because I followed Kofi there too. I thought you were talking about when you got the smoke, you got the upstairs and the downstairs,
And then when you did the smoke, I chose the smoke. I followed Woods. I followed Woods. And so what happens is basically the urn sucks the positivity out of him. So when Woods gets into the room and they follows into the smoke, he gets in there, and then it's he's staring at the urn, and it's you remember Undertaker says at one point, he's like, yo, it sucks the positivity out, and the power and misery loves sucking the positivity out of things. And
evil.
Can we just talk about Corey? Here's a perfect question for you. Since your birthday's in October, are you a fan of the Saw movies?
No.
I don't know what one has to do with the other, but okay.
I'll circle back around because you didn't have this happen in your path.
I think that pointless violence in films is just like I say, pointless. It's just a gore factor just to.
Well, Saw's violence isn't exactly pointless though, because you got to play the game to get out of it.
You got to get out of the puzzle because some crazy kidnapper. Yeah, that's just no.
Fucking hater. Anyway,
bro, I hate Final Destination because that's hey, here's how you can die on a random Tuesday.
I mean, that's a fair point. Well, you know who else probably doesn't like the Saw movies, I'm going to guess? Big E does not like the Saw movies because at one point I chose to follow Big E, and then it cuts back on, and he's got this box on his head that looks like something out of the Saw movies.
Yeah,
yep. And it's got the spiders in there, and I'm like, dude, he's got to hate the fucking Saw movies because he's having a heart attack with this big-ass box on his head. What do you say, Corey? I can see you had something.
That's just that toward to the point on the movies. It's just that kind of violence. I don't know if you guys remember the movie Hostel.
Yeah,
it was
my coach was in one of the Hostel movies, bro.
It was of the same ilk to me. They were both kind of we're just gonna show the most grotesque stuff we can, and still get a rating where we can still just be R and still be in theaters. It was they rode the line as much as they could. So yeah, I just wasn't a fan, but go on.
I respect it. Well, we talked about, escaping the Undertaker. I didn't follow all of the different ways out of it, but hey, shout out to them for doing something to finally promote Big E as champion and the New Day as the money-making group that they've been for them for quite some time, in my opinion.
I want to know if they wrote this themselves or if.
I mean, hey, dude, but that doesn't mean WWE's got to go with it. How many ideas have we heard of that they've shit on? Is all I'm saying.
Right. I'm just wondering if they had the chance to had a hand in writing this.
Oh, I'm sure they had something in it, but I mean, for them to do something with The Undertaker and for it to be on Netflix like that, it's pretty cool. So, Corey, I want you to go through it. Let your girls pick all the things, and I want to see where yours ends you up. Well, before we get out of here, I'm going to leave it to you. So, we got a UFC that... Go ahead.
You know what? Never mind. I don't want to give it away. I was going to ask what your final choice was.
I don't want to give away the final choice if he does it with his kids, so I want to leave that for next week. Fair. So, UFC this weekend. It's kind of a card, really. But we'll go over the co-main, the main, and the third fight. Tim Elliott, who we may have his wife on this show at some point. She's a pro fighter and pro wrestler as well. But Tim Elliott is taking on Matheus Nicolau. I've been a big fan of Tim Elliott for a while. A lot of people are saying this Nicolau kid might take him out, but I personally always like to watch Tim Elliott fight. So in this one, I'm going to go with Tim Elliott, but I'm going to go with Tim Elliott by submission.
So I'm usually like I've watched all these athletes compete and I've like tried my best to like understand the pronunciation so that I can at least be close when I try to like represent these guys. And that is just not the case with Matthias Nikou, however the fuck you
Nicolou.
say Tim Elliott's opponent's name.
Mateus Nicolou.
Yeah. I've watched him compete.
Matthew.
If I'm not mistaken, he's on like a 2 or 3 fight losing skid actually at this point. I remember watching him in his last fight thinking he competed very well. He did good, but it was in a losing effort. And I was worried that he was going to be cut up to that point. But with that being said,
he's ranked number 11 right now.
Yeah, do me a favor and confirm my suspicions.
I mean, he's ranked number 11, so
yeah, but that's not the most stacked division, and if he's worked his way up to 5 and then started losing, you can stay at 11 coming off a couple losses.
I'm looking for it right now. There you go, Nicolou. Yeah. Oh, dude, you are totally off, way off.
Am I?
Dude, he's 16-2-1.
16-2-1. I'm seeing 16-3-1.
I see 16-2-1 on Tapology. In his last fight, he won on UFC Fight Night by split decision.
He beat Manel Cape in his last fight. That's
correct. Okay. And his last 3 fights were canceled, and then he was on a 2-fight win streak before that. So I mean,
okay,
dude ain't coming in on no losses.
Okay, so I'm getting him confused. I believe it was Schnell that I'm thinking of. They have similar faces. Excuse me. But with that being said, either way, I'm leaning towards Tim Elliott. I've always, like you said, Kyle, I've always been a big fan of his get in there and get it done kind of style, whether it be with his wrestling game or on the feet. He always just brings the fight to his opponent, whether it's in a victory or in a loss.
Max.
He goes out there and competes. So that's what I always like to see in people that have made it up to this level. So
I'm with you on that one.
I'm definitely leaning Elliott in that one.
I hope it's Tim Elliott. I really do. The next in the co-main, Dom, do you got any pick on that fight?
No, I mean, not really, no.
All right. Randy Brown versus Jared Gooden. Now, Randy Brown's had a couple scraps, but again, this is another one of those, like, again, I just said I went down the wormhole of watching Cage Warriors and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But then this is where it's going to make me contradict myself. This is where I've said before, this is where sometimes I wish the UFC wouldn't always put on like so many cards, because then you have cards where it's like, like, you know what I mean? Don't get me wrong. I'll still watch it, but it's not, I'm really not super excited for this one. Now, if you're asking who I think is going to win though, I've really been impressed by what I've seen from Randy Brown lately. Yeah. I like Randy Brown. And I'm not saying that Jared Gooden isn't a dog, but I think Randy Brown has more tools to be able to finish the fight.
And not only that, we've seen his skills on Showcase a couple more times, so it's kind of easier to lean that way. I do, like you say, I believe Jared Gooden's a very, very good fighter, but we've just seen more of Randy Brown, so it's kind of hard to lean his way. And I know you keep bringing up like the depth of the card, or I guess you could say like the excitement level of the card. And I'm kind of okay with these fight nights. Like I see a lot of fans and stuff kind of bitch about like the not main, like too big name in the main event kind of fights and stuff. But as a fan that does watch like opening fight till end of card every week, these fight nights, like this one in particular, there's a ton of up and coming talent on there, and they just kind of
and don't mistake what I'm saying. They're still worth watching.
Very like here and there, like not to like run through a list or anything, but there's very like the Alexander Romanov versus Jared Vanderera on the prelims. That's gonna be an absolute banger, and it's at heavyweight. So like both of these are up and coming contender. Like a lot of
there's always good fights. I mean, but again,
like,
the
what I mean by that is a lot of these cards where there isn't necessarily like star power at the top of it, they end up being the ones that are the most
are the best, funnest ones to watch because
acquainted.
they're guys that are going to scrap. And I definitely agree with that. I'm just saying for me, especially, again, to be fair, I understand that I'm probably a little bit jaded because I've been watching fights for the better part of the last. Fuck, dude, I've been watching fights for the better part of the last 16 years at this point. So, I mean, I've watched and been at a lot of fucking fights. So, and again, being a pro wrestling fan, again, maybe that changes my thing. But to me, I always was a fan of, I got no problem with there being fight nights, but I just like there being a little bit of a build to them. Especially now that you got Contender Series on Tuesdays too, which has been putting out some banger ass fights. Like, I would almost rather the Contender Series be like the midweek appetizer, and if you don't have like a, I don't know what the right word is to do. I don't want to say banger, but if you don't have like the most star-studded card, I would be okay if there was like a week gap in between some of them. Is all I'm saying.
I feel like they kind of have to. Not only do they actually have to because of the ESPN contract that they're under, the way that that's structured, they have to put on a large amount of events throughout every year. But with beyond just that point, they kind of also have to in the fact of that's how you build up other stars. Like
I agree with that 100%.
Like,
I'm not saying there's not a need for it. My issue is sometimes it's just like for me as somebody that's as a fight fan, it's like, yeah, I can watch every fight in the world. I'm just saying sometimes it makes cards like these to where there's not as much stakes on them, which I feel like is why a lot of times you're going to see such a big viewer jump on some of the cards. And again, I'm going to watch them all either any way it goes. I'm just saying for me personally. And again, and to be fair, on the other side of the show, I say this with wrestling too. Like, I'm not just saying this because it's MMA. Corey, you've heard me. How many times have you heard me say? No, I'm just clarifying. Like, I say this.
Though, Kyle, like, think about how big of a deal to somebody like a Mackenzie Dern being in her first main event on ESPN. Bright lights,
big fight for her, and I like that fight. That's what I'm saying. I like some of the fights that are on them. Just sometimes when they don't have the depth to be able to do it, because that again speaks to the bigger issue which we were talking about before. Well, the UFC's women's divisions fucking suck.
Well,
at least depth wise right now. Depth wise right now.
When you compare them to their very, very dominant champs, but when you compete them against each other, it's very, very entertaining when you go contender against contender. But yeah, if you're just comparing champ against division, yeah, I could see why you say it that way.
I'm saying to be able to consistently keep that weight class in each card, you know what I mean? Lightweight, you could fucking run a good lightweight fight on every card for the end of the rest of the fucking year, and you could have a good fight. That's my point.
Because especially in a UFC example, there's only so many. Oh god, hiccups just hit me. There's only so many examples of high-level athletes at those particular weight classes. And,
sure, but again, that's why I'm saying there needs to be some more stars.
Still playing catch-up in some regards in the women's aspect. One thing the UFC, you can say whatever you want about fighter pay, fighter this, that, the other. One thing they are very, very, very good at is picking the best talent in the world and running with them.
No argument there.
So with that being said, it's like if there's only so many to be had, and they're already doing a very good job of picking the select few that they feel as though could either be successful or provide some kind of viewership or star power in the future, then like I don't know. It's hard to say. Like you have to.
It's a touchy situation because I'm not saying they don't need to have more fights because obviously that's how you build more stars. Yeah. I'm just saying when you're how do I word it? When you're the top organization, when the UFC is the top dog, and when you consider the UFC to be the end all beat all and their world championship is the world championship, I just feel like in the current situation you're in, when you have Amanda Nunes as champion like that, they don't have a lot of contenders. Now, sometimes you run into that problem when you get a dominant champion like her, or in a situation like Valentina Shevchenko. Understandable. That's not the UFC's fault. I'm just saying the problem that then creates is that there's not a lot of like matchups to where somebody's like, oh shit, you know what? I want to see so and so and so and so fight, because when you have a champion that's just straight dominant like that, that's all I'm saying. And I'm saying that's why right now, especially when you're big names like a Joanna Jędrzejczyk, you know, a Rose Namajunas may have a belt right now, but I'm saying, like, look at Jędrzejczyk. Jędrzejczyk was the last one who had the big long title reign, and then she lost a couple fights, and now she's back down there. And then Zhang Weili Zhang, she couldn't hold on to the belt like that. What I'm saying is then it creates a hard time for there to be another star in women's MMA, which that's all the only point I'm making at here is the UFC right now is in a spot for that, which is why somebody like Miesha Tate coming back could be good, but it'll take a little bit of time. See, and then Kathy. See, shout out to Kathy. Get you a twisted tumbler. But with that being said, she said Thug Rose. Like I just said, Kathy, they got a couple. I'm a big fan of Thug Rose. Thug Rose is Thug Rose. But I just, as a whole, they don't have as many stars in the women's division. That's the point I'm making, is that they need to do a better job of whether that's bringing more people in or whatever.
Or putting them in main events that some fans may find subject. That's, you know.
Sure, and I don't got a and I get your point, but.
That's kind of, and in my eyes, as much as like we were talking about Valentina being dominant and stuff, that was the one thing that I had kind of argued on the night, is the only way I could see her possibly losing the fight is if she went against somebody that was superior in one aspect of the game and was able to implement.
If your name's not Amanda Nunes, she ain't fucking losing nothing.
Well, okay, I agree. I'm not saying I'm betting money or anything like that, but if you're talking about somebody with a particular skill set in one aspect that is higher than the current champ, Mackenzie Dern's grappling game is definitely higher level.
Oh, that's fair. Totally fair.
So that in itself makes for a very interesting prospect. And not only that, Marina Rodriguez is an incredible striker that just keeps excelling her game and is doing incredible in stopping the takedowns to this point and implementing her strikes from a distance, using her range. Both of these competitors, like, as much as the fans and the hate that I've seen on Twitter and stuff be circulated about how can this be a main event? This is ridiculous, yada, yada. If you look at just the matchup and it separated the fact from this being a main event, it is an incredible matchup for, in my eyes, who's going to end up contending next for the 125-pound belt.
So who are you picking? Mackenzie Dern or?
Well, with that being said, you need to see both the girls in a 5-round environment, whether it goes to 5 rounds or not. I feel as though that's something that needs to be warranted to get them into that slot. So main event worthy, in my opinion. But I feel as though Mackenzie Dern provides a lot of interesting dynamics to her game. She, as well as Marina Rodriguez, like I was saying, both of which have very much improved their striking game. She's over there with Perillo now and doing really good work from every single thing that I've seen Mackenzie Dern. That she's just really leveled herself up, basically, since having her child. It seems like she took a little bit of time in between her fights.
And then magically gained a Brazilian accent.
Suffered her first career loss, and I feel as though that actually helped her as well. And
the Brazilian accent?
No, suffering her.
Come on, man! You can't say that she didn't just magically grow a Brazilian accent.
Okay. All I'm saying is, I go down south for 2 weeks to see my family, and I start y'all's in. So I can't blame somebody.
No, I'm not, but it's pretty funny.
I can't blame somebody because I've seen that thrown around a million times too.
I'm not giving her a hard time, but I couldn't help it.
Half their friends, her boyfriend, And
Her family's all
the others
Brazilian
are
at this point. I get it.
You know.
And her dad's
But-
Brazilian, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that's my point exactly. You know, so to pick up an accent from hanging out with people,
It just was funny because she went from talking straight white girl to Brazilian.
Yeah, it was very noticeable. But that being said,
Like there was no even like.
I lean towards Mackenzie Dern in this fight, but I would not be surprised if we see the advancement of Marina Rodriguez's takedown defense and is able to keep it on the feet and is able to outstrike her from distance. Not outpoint her, because that's not how she fights. She actually goes in there and scraps. So it's going to be an interesting fight, man. Either way, I don't understand the hate that this is getting. I feel like, there's maybe better.
I think it's still going to be a good fight. Don't mistake what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like just because I said I don't.
Is there better fights on the co-main or third or fourth fight on one of the up and coming pay-per-views or something that you could have pulled and made that the main event? Sure. But that's not the case. And
It's still a good fight. Now, don't mistake what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's not a good fight. I'm just saying sometimes I feel like they put on fights for the sake of putting on fights. But with that being said, I think Mackenzie Dern gets the job done. I think, like you said, I think she's really advanced her game in a lot of ways. I think Marina Rodriguez is going to bring some challenges as far as the striking. I think this is going to be a fight where you're going to see Mackenzie Dern try to use her grappling too much, or she's going to try to use her striking and get cracked and then revert back to her grappling. But I think overall, I think the jiu-jitsu of Mackenzie Dern is too much for Marina Rodriguez in this one, and then we're going to see where she goes from there. Now, again, Marina Rodriguez is going to be a dog, and she's going to be a problem. But I think overall, if you're asking who I think is going to win, I think Marina Rodriguez is going to get the dub. And before I let you guys out of here, as you see in that right corner, there's some social media there in the right corner. I highly suggest that you follow those social medias because
that way.
When you're slipping into DMs, when you're slipping into DMs, when you're slipping into DMs in the bottom corner, if what happens in the DMs comes to real life,
over there,
next week's show is going to be pretty badass. So don't get too twisted with your Tumblr. And until next Tuesday, make sure you hit that.
Roman Brains showed up.
I mean,
Broman
Brains.
I told you.
Broman Brains and Paul Heyman was thanking the sweet baby Jesus that Roman Reigns didn't blow his brains out like Arn Anderson said. Until next time, and in the in-between time, don't get bromed. Peace.